Everyone thought George Russell was untouchable, powerful, rich, unstoppable. But the trailer for episode 8 of the Gilded Age season 3 just flipped everything upside down. A casket, a tear-streaked Bertha, a funeral no one saw coming. But is George really gone? Or is this just the beginning of a much bigger game? Asterisk, before we dive deep into the trailer, let's take a step back and remember what happened in episode 7. This is where everything started to feel off. George had been dealing with a lot both in business and at home. The pressure from the union strikes was rising again, threatening his railroad empire. We saw cracks in his public image as investors began to question his leadership, especially after the fallout from the steel deal earlier in the season. Asterisk, at home, things weren't any calmer. Bertha, always focused on social climbing and protecting the family's reputation, started showing signs of worrying. There were whispers at the opera and raised eyebrows at the charity ball. People were wondering if the Russells were finally losing their grip on New York high society. Asterisk, but what really stood out in episode 7 was George's health. There were 2 moments that seemed small at the time, but now feel heavy after watching the episode 8 trailer. First, there was that dizzy spell when he tried to stand up from his desk. He brushed it off as being tired. The second was a private scene where he rubbed his chest while speaking with Larry. No one said the word heart, but we all felt something wasn't right. Asterisk, meanwhile, the people around George were growing louder. Clay, his loyal but cautious advisor, suggested slowing down and resting. Bertha, in contrast, was furious at the idea of George stepping back. She said something that stuck with many fans: "We didn't climb this far to stop now." Asterisk, also, let's not forget Larry's subplot. He's been trying to distance himself from the family business, leaning more into architecture and building something of his own. George supported this, but in episode 7, you could sense a bit of regret. Maybe he felt Larry wasn't ready to carry the Russell legacy. Asterisk, by the time episode 7 ended, we were left with a strange silence. No major cliffhanger, just George alone in his office, looking out the window. It almost felt like a goodbye. Asterisk now, with the release of the episode 8 trailer showing a funeral, and not just any funeral, but George Russell's, it suddenly makes sense. All those small details, the tension, the signs they were building towards something tragic. But the real question is George really dead, or is the show playing with us? Asterisk, because the Gilded Age doesn't just show drama, it plans it. Every look, every line of dialogue, every costume has a deeper meaning. And if there's one thing Julian Fellowes has taught us from Downton Abbey to know, it's that nothing is ever simple in high society. Asterisk, in the next section, we'll look at the trailer itself frame by frame and uncover what it really tells. US, because in this world, funerals aren't just for mourning. They're for power moves, secrets, and sometimes deception. Asterisk, the episode 8 trailer opens in complete silence. No music, no voiceover, just the soft sound of a carriage rolling over cobblestone streets. The screen fades into show black umbrellas moving slowly through the rain. Everyone is dressed in mourning clothes. The camera lingers on a polished casket being carried through the entrance of a grand church. The message is clear. A powerful man has fallen. Asterisk, then, just for a moment, we see Bertha Russell. She's standing still. Her face is pale, her jaw clenched, and for the first time in this entire series, she looks unsure. No diamonds, no forced smile, just grief and maybe fear. She doesn't speak in this shot, but her silence says everything. The camera slowly pulls back, revealing a long line of guests: politicians, businessmen, society, women, everyone who once depended on George, now gathered to say goodbye. Asterisk, this trailer uses short, intense shots, each only lasting a few seconds. But every frame is packed with clues. Asterisk, let's break it down. Asterisk, shot 1. The funeral carriage. Asterisk, a black horse-drawn carriage leads the way. It's elegant, yet heavy. The use of shadow and slow motion adds a weight to the moment as the casket moves. Forward, we see New Yorkers standing in silence along the sidewalks. It feels like the city itself has stopped, but look closely, one man in the crowd isn't wearing black. He's in gray, and he steps back as the casket passes. Is this a simple extra, or someone important hiding in plain sight? Asterisk shot 2, Bertha's. Entrance asterisk Bertha steps out of her private carriage, dressed in full mourning black with a veil over her face. She's supported by a footman, but when she sees the casket, she pauses. Her hand trembles slightly. This moment feels real, not an act, not a show for society. It's personal. The veil is thin, and we can just see her eyes. They're red. She's been crying, or maybe pretending to cry. With Bertha, we never know for sure. Asterisk shot 3. The church interior asterisk inside the church. Candles flicker, and the pews are packed. We see key characters seated near the front. Larry Russell is seated next to his mother, his face unreadable. Is it shock, guilt? Then we see Aurora Fane and Agnes Van Ride. Agnes whispers something to Aurora, and Aurora nods, but we can't hear the words. Closed captions don't give us anything. It's meant to be a mystery. Asterisk shot 4. Snippets of tension asterisk suddenly, the trailer cuts faster. We get a series of quick images. Asterisk a white envelope being slid under a door. Asterisk Clay, George's advisor, burning what looks like business papers. Asterisk a single candle blown out by someone unseen. Asterisk a shot of Bertha alone in her drawing room, looking at a framed photo of George. Asterisk each of these clips lasts less than a second, but they're clearly not random. Something is being hidden. Perhaps George's death wasn't natural. Or maybe someone is using his death to cover something else up. Asterisk shot 5. Final scene. The unknown mourner asterisk. The trailer ends with a shot that lasts just a few seconds, but leaves a huge impact. A man dressed in a long black coat and top hat stands at the very back of the church. His face is in shadow. As the camera moves toward him, we hear the church bell toll, and then the screen cuts to black. No name, no dialogue, just the words. Gilded Age, Episode 8, asterisk. So what can we gather from this trailer? Asterisk first, the tone is clear. Episode 8 is going to be slower, more emotional, and deeply focused on character drama. But under the surface, the tension is still there. Someone is hiding something. Someone is planning their next move. And George's funeral might not be the end of his story. It might be the spark that changes everything in New York's elite circle. Asterisk the visuals are also sending a message. The use of shadows, the heavy lighting inside the church, the quiet sound design, everything feels more like a mystery than a farewell. And that final shot of the unknown man, it's no accident. The show wants us to ask, who really benefits now that George is gone? Asterisk in the next section, we'll dig deeper into what this death means for each character, especially Bertha, Larry, and the people who wanted George gone. Because in the world of the Gilded Age, a funeral is never just a funeral. Asterisk George Russell's death isn't just a personal tragedy, it's a power quake. One man's fall at the top of New York's social and financial world means 100 others are now racing to either grab his place or protect their own. And while the trailer gives us only hints, we can already tell this single event is going to shake every major character to their core. Asterisk, let's start with Bertha Russell. Her rise to social power has been the backbone of this entire series. She's fought tooth and nail to be accepted by the old money elite, using George's wealth and influence to break into spaces that were never meant for her. But now with George gone, what happens to her position? Asterisk, we already saw in the trailer that Bertha is shaken. The veil, the silence, the tears. But grief is never simple with Bertha. She's not the type to fall apart forever. If anything, George's death might trigger something even more dangerous. Her transformation into a true power player, one no longer held back by her husband's cautious nature. George was always her foundation, but sometimes, when the ground disappears, People build even higher. Asterisk think about it. Bertha now controls an enormous fortune, a social empire, and a public image built on strength. Without George, she's no longer the wife of the rich railroad tycoon. She becomes the Russell, the one who could redefine her family's name and rewrite the rules of high society from a widow's share. Asterisk, but there's risk too. Women in this world are still judged by their husbands' names, and many in the old money crowd will smell blood. They might see George's death as their chance to push Bertha out, especially those like Agnes Van Ryn, who never fully accepted her. The funeral may be respectful on the surface, but underneath those black veils, people are plotting. Asterisk. Next, let's talk about Larry Russell. George's son has always walked a different path. He's an artist at heart, drawn to design, architecture, and a life far from railroads and boardrooms. George supported him, but there was always tension. George wanted Larry to carry on the legacy. Larry, in turn, wanted to be free. Asterisk now, freedom might come at a cost. With George gone, Larry may inherit the entire business. But is he ready for it? And more importantly, does he want it? Episode 8 might show Larry being pulled into directions, honoring his father's empire or following his own passion. That choice could define not just his future, but the future of the Russell name. Asterisk also, Larry's relationship with women, especially Mary and Brooke, may now take on new weight. If Larry is forced into leadership, his personal life could be placed under the microscope. Marrying well might not be just romantic anymore. It could become a move in a much larger social game. Asterisk now, we can't forget the old money powerhouses, especially Agnes Van Ryn. Agnes has always seen the Russells as upstarts. She tolerated them for appearances, but deep down, she believes in bloodlines and tradition. George's death could be her chance to pull the social ladder back up. Asterisk in the trailer, Agnes is seen whispering to Aurora Fane during the funeral. We don't hear what she says, but it's almost certainly a plan. Could she try to sway Bertha's allies? Could she move to isolate the Russells entirely, now that George isn't around to hold the room? Asterisk Agnes isn't the only one who might see opportunity in tragedy. Businessmen who feared George might now start moving in on his deals. Men like Ward McAllister, who play both sides, might start realigning themselves. And let's not forget the whispers from the workers and unions. Some of them will see George's death as justice. That could spell unrest for the Russell estate, especially if leadership seems weak. Asterisk lastly, we need to talk about the unknowns. In every good story, when a king falls, the shadows get busier. The trailer's final image of a mysterious man at the back of the church suggests someone new or long hidden is about to enter the game. Is he connected to George's death? Is he here to take something or reveal something that was never meant to come to light? Asterisk, we don't have answers yet. But we do know this. Every major character has just entered a new phase. For some, it's a chance to rise. For others, it's a threat they weren't ready for. Asterisk, George Russell's funeral may be about saying goodbye, but in truth, it's the start of something far more dangerous. Asterisk, in the next and final section, we'll explore the biggest fan theories and hidden clues from the trailer because let's be honest, when it comes to the Gilded Age, death is rarely the final chapter. Asterisk, let's be honest, this is the Gilded Age. Nothing is ever exactly what it seems. A funeral in the trailer doesn't always mean a confirmed death. In fact, based on what we know so far, there's a growing list of reasons to believe that George Russell's funeral might not be what it appears. So let's explore the biggest theories, fan speculation, and hidden clues from the trailer. Asterisk Theory 1. George isn't really dead. Asterisk yes, it's bold, but it's also believable. The trailer never explicitly confirms George's death. We see a casket, a funeral, and mourning, but not a single shot of George himself. There's no flashback, no body shown, and no dialogue that clearly says George is dead. This is exactly the kind of misdirection that the Gilded Age has used before. Remember when Bertha nearly lost her place in society and we thought she was done? She came back stronger. George might be doing the same just from behind. The scenes, asterisk if this theory is true, then the funeral could be staged. But why? Some fans think George faked his death for close. There's a moment in the trailer where Clay, George's advisor, is seen burning papers. That's not something you do during a normal grieving process. What's he hiding? Financial documents, evidence of foul play, or maybe George had enemies we didn't know about. Asterisk theory 3. A new villain is rising. Asterisk that mysterious man in the back of the church. The one the camera lingers on just before the trailer ends. He's not just a background actor. Shows like this don't waste a final shot on someone unimportant. Fans are speculating that this figure could be a number of people. Asterisk a secret investor from George's past. Asterisk a political rival hoping to move in. Asterisk a long-lost family member, possibly an illegitimate child or cousin ready to challenge the will. Asterisk whoever he's clearly meant to represent something bigger. A shift, a threat, a new storm on the horizon. Asterisk theory 4. Bertha becomes more powerful and more dangerous. Asterisk so many viewers have noticed that Bertha's expressions in the trailer aren't just sat there calculating. She doesn't collapse. She doesn't scream. She plans. Some believe that Bertha may use George's death to rebrand herself not as a widow but as a matriarch with total control. Asterisk there's even a dark theory floating around that Bertha might have had something to do with George's downfall. It sounds extreme, but if power was slipping away from her and George was no longer the asset he once was, could she have made the ultimate play? Asterisk this would completely shift her character arc from ambitious socialite to master manipulator. Asterisk foreshadowing. Clues. Asterisk the envelope under the door might be a will revision, a confession, or blackmail. Asterisk the candle being blown out, often used in cinema to symbolize the end of a life or the end of a truth. Asterisk Clay's fire scene, destruction of evidence, or maybe something symbolic about ending an era. Asterisk each of these shots tells a small part of a bigger story. The creators know fans rewatch these trailers frame by frame. That's why nothing is random. Every second is a clue. Asterisk what might happen next. Episode predictions. Asterisk if George is alive and hiding. Episode 8 might end with a twist, a phone call, a letter, or even a return. If he's truly gone, we could see a massive legal battle over his estate. Larry might have to step into the spotlight faster than he wants. Bertha could either be pushed out or rise even higher. The social elites might either close ranks or fracture completely. Asterisk one of the most likely events, a secret being revealed at the funeral. A whisper, a letter read aloud, or a confrontation between characters. Funeral episodes in shows like The Gilded Age are never just about grief. They're about power moves disguised as mourning. Asterisk asterisk final thought. Asterisk this trailer has opened a floodgate of questions. And that's the beauty of The Gilded Age. Behind the pearls and polished shoes, there's always something boiling underneath. George's funeral might seem like an ending, but it's more likely a spark that will light the next fire in New York's elite world. Asterisk and now over to you. What do you think? Is George really dead? Who is that man in the shadows? And what secrets do you think will come to light in episode 8? Drop your theories in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of The Gilded Age. Asterisk